Welcome to the Failed Podcast. I am your host, Sam Esquivel. Thank you so much to everyone that's listening and supporting us, for everyone that's following us on our social media. All you got to do is look on the description below, and you'll be able to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other platform that's out there. I'm not sure how many there are, but I'm on a few of them. But thank you so much. I've been having fun in every episode as I bring people in, and we just see what people's perspective is on failure and challenges, because it's just a part of life, and people sometimes don't like to talk about it. So here on the show, I want to talk about it. I want to ask questions around failure and challenges in hopes that it can help you, the listener, get through maybe a tough time, or maybe help you help someone else that's going through a fail, because it does have a strong impact on individuals. And so I'm hoping to shine a little light, to be the silver lining whenever someone's going through a challenging time. Today we have a great episode. I have Richard Gonzales with me. He's going to jump in here in a second. He is a friend of my wife's, and we share a few friends in common, and I watch him on social, and he's teaching people, he's helping people out, motivating people, and I like that. And I always wonder, how did that individual end up there? Because it's tough to teach, and not only is it tough to teach, but it's tough to have people to teach. And he's there right now, and I kind of find that inspiring. And so today we're going to get to know Richard a little bit. Richard, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and I'm glad to be here, Sam. Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming on. I know that you heard our previous episode, and I saw you like it and make a comment on Facebook. And so that was my end, dude. I was like, I'm going to reach out to him. I got to have him on. And so thank you so much for being here. Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you're doing, in this world right now. What's your business? What's your life about? And then once we kind of go through that, then we'll jump into your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Richard Gonzales. I am the owner of Lovely Home Solutions. Basically, my business is the buying of houses, and I renovate them, and I either resell them traditionally, or I own or finance, or I'll have rental properties. So it's what I do is pretty simple. Just basically buying houses, fixing them up, and either selling them or renting them. On the side, I also teach other individuals how to get started in the business, how to do certain aspects of what I do, finding the money, rehabbing, how to buy a property right, how to sell it, numerous things.
How long have you been doing it?
January of 2014. So that was 8 years ago, back in January.
Yeah, it seems like everyone that's in the game right now, I asked them, and they're like, oh man, 2 months, 6 months, because it's like really hype right now and hot. But you've been around for a while. That's a long time for a real estate or investor, agent, whatever, your niche is. That's a long time. So that's pretty good. So that just tells me that what you're doing. You've experienced it from many angles. And so people forget it's important to invest time in things, because that's where understanding and clarity comes from. All right, here we go, Richard. I want to know, I asked my wife about you. I said, tell me a little bit about Richard. Y'all were in high school together. Y'all had the same, circle of friends. And and I asked her, because I was like, okay, man, give me the dirt on Richard, man, because I want to know the challenges and failures he had when he was a young kid. And she laughed, and she was like in deep thought, bro. And I was like, she's got to choose from a few things. It's quite a bit in there. And dude, it was so funny. She goes, you know what? He was straight-laced. He was a good guy. There's nothing really bad that I can point out. I said,
okay,
dude.
That's a compliment right there.
I was like, dude, okay, so I go, okay, so maybe he shouldn't come on the Failed Podcast since he was like doing good since high school. And we were just laughing. And she goes, well, I'll tell you something funny about Richard. And I said, okay, fine. And this happened in high school, so I don't know whoever's listening. It happened a long time ago. Long.
How long was that? 18 years ago, somewhere
Another
there?
life. Another life. And then so she, her and her friend. I'm laughing, bro, because I know. Don't turn red because it'll show up on YouTube. No, And she said, me and my friends would make a list of guys that we would date that were good guys. And you made the list every time for
Oh my
several young ladies during that time. And so I thought that was kind of funny, but that says a lot about you, that you had a good character. And I know when you're young, like a knucklehead attracts girls and everything, but you were like on the right path and making good decisions. You were focused in school. And and they found you attractive, and so there you go. I just want to give you some props. They're decades late, but that's what she said, and I was like, good man. There's nothing wrong if maybe your failures and challenges aren't epic, right? But we all learn, and we all go through situations that make us better. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you grew up in high school and how you maintained just being a good person, staying focused. And maybe talk to me about what you were thinking you were going to do in the future when you finished.
Yeah, well, that's quite a compliment because she remembers a version of me that I may not, actually remember. So high school was very actually challenging for me.
Yeah.
I was very lost and confused. I think I had some good intentions and good motives. I felt like I was trying to find myself. And I actually have a teenager now, so I can see her wrestling through becoming who she is.
Got it.
And I recall vividly in, between the ages of 15 to 18, really trying to find who I was. And it wasn't an easy thing.
Yeah.
So how far do you want me to go back?
No, let's start there. Looking back during that time when you're trying to find who you are, and then obviously like right now, like, if I asked you, I know you could answer. It's like, man, here's what I do. I wake up every day and boom, I clock in. I know who I'm helping. And that feels good. But people don't realize like how great that is, because for many people, they'll last longer not knowing who they are. What were some of the struggles of knowing what your purpose was? And when did you remember when you said, I know what I'm going to do? And then like you narrowed it down.
Well, there was a big gap. I mean, that was, ever since I was a child to middle school years to high school years, I wrestled with that. And I didn't really figure out what I wanted to do until I was about 25 years old. So it stretched from high school all the way up into early adulthood. One of the worst questions that I had as a child is that whenever I would get a job, where do you see yourself? Hated that question because I had no vision for 2 years, for 1 year, for 5 years. I was just trying to get a paycheck and earn a living. My first job at 15 was at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I worked at Domino's. I worked at Sonic. I worked at Pizza Hut. I mean, so that's what I strived for. I mean, I was just trying to look for a job. So that goes a lot to say. And I know everybody begins somewhere, but some of those I had into early adulthood, into my early 20s. So it wasn't even something that I did as a 15 and 16-year-old, I carried over as a part-time job, as a second job. Yeah. But it just goes to show I really didn't have any direction in my life up until, approaching mid-20s.
Yeah. Okay. So during that time, you're working in fast food. When did you start saying, like, when did you, like, if this is the proper term, when did you finally say, you know what, I need to change paths. I need, this isn't going to work. What hit you and what finally forced you to say, I need to step into something else?
Yeah. So, when I became 18, I started working in warehouses and I would take these fast food second jobs. Yeah. And it was very, even when I did that, I was great at what I did. When I would work in the warehouse and when I was working in the fast food, I just had a desire I didn't just want to go there and do nothing. I just kind of wanted to be productive. Yeah. And what I recognize now, what I didn't recognize then, is that there was something in there that desired to be a better version of myself. Yeah. Even if I didn't have a business to do it in, I would wanted to do that because that was a quality that I possessed. Yeah. So, remind me of your question.
So what finally made you say enough's enough? I just got to find another path. Okay,
yeah. So that took time. Yeah. So probably, again, I didn't really find out what I wanted to do till about 25, but about the age of 21, I started kind of personal development. Got it. I started the journey of growth. I started reading. I started looking at opportunities. I started, going to, maybe like a seminar or something like that. And I started being introduced to people's way of thinking, and as I began to feed my mind and began to feed my soul, my desires for doing something different began to increase. So that stretch lasted, from 21 to 22 till I finally pulled the trigger about 25, 26.
So what kind of things that like these seminars or books that you were reading, what was inspiring you? Because, okay, here's what I want to put on the table. It seems like in this culture nowadays, it's like, oh man, money and fame and cars. And fine, that's a result of success. But I feel like sometimes there's something more internal that can help somebody keep going and encourage them. So at a young age, was it that stuff or was it something else?
Well, so obviously my motives and my desires have grown over the years.
Yeah.
But in the very beginning, so I tried to go to college.
Okay.
So I went to TCC for about 6 years.
You used the word tried.
Yes.
I'm listening.
Okay. So I tried to go.
Like Dr. Phil's.
Well, let me rephrase that. I tried to make it work. So it took me 6 years to get a 2-year degree. And I only finished it because I'm like, man, I'm already this far. I've been going this long. I may as well do it. I finished my 2-year degree in 6, and I realized I still have no clue what I wanted to do. Again, back to the no vision, I couldn't see anything past a job or anything past that. So,
well, I want to stop there because, okay, so there's a challenge that I caught in that little part, and that is that 6 years, right? You should have had a master's. You got an associate's.
Yeah, exactly. How about that?
No big deal.
That was a big accomplishment for me, though.
Absolutely. You gained so many other things in those 6 years. Your network, your friends, it's a numerous number of things. But here's the thing that gets me, that I see happen to a lot of people, and that is that if they don't do it in 2 years, then they start carrying this embarrassment or this shame, and they're likely to drop out. They don't want to see it through. And I think that just committing, no matter how long it was going to take, you made up your mind and you said, I'm going to finish. And it took you 6 years to get your 2-year degree. But for me, that's facing a challenge. Mm-hmm. Like the other option is to fail. The other option is to not do it. And so I want to commend you for doing that and putting that out there to our audience, because there's somebody like me. And it's funny because we kind of share it, because I'm a slow learner.
So
I take my time in things. And so for me to finish something academically is going to take me time. Now, there's other things that I'm fast at, but academically it's going to take time. And so I think that's an encouragement for people. You don't have to be like, college doesn't have to be fast food. Like, it might take you a little bit longer, but the goal is not to fail. And I like that you didn't fail and that you kept going.
Right. And there's an actual quality behind that. So one of the things that I believe, or one of the keys to success, is resilience, the capacity to just keep on going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't that I didn't have those thoughts in my mind over those 6 years. I kind of knew year 4 or 5 into it that, hey, you know what? I don't really want to do anything with a degree. But I decided to keep on going to honor my commitment to myself, and amongst other things, and the resilience factor and the commitment factor. So, I mean, even though, quote unquote, I didn't go the school direction, the qualities that I was developing myself would benefit me far beyond, a degree, far into my business, into my marriage, to whatever it is that I do.
Now, learning, obviously, in those, you would have got less exposure to learning in 2 years than you did in 6. Those 6 years that you saw professors teach you, the way that people ran their classes and so on, is there a connection to that to now? Because I know that you're teaching, like you have classroom settings, and now all of a sudden you're in the front, and now you have students. Where did that come from? Where did that desire? How did you develop that desire to do public speaking and teaching?
Yeah, so I teach on real estate investing, obviously. That came from really when I started my journey into real estate investing, because I didn't have a sphere or network or family that was in real estate. I started at about 25 years old, and, there's not a lot of 25-year-olds are in that industry, and especially I grew up in, the Diamond Hill area, Fort Worth. So, I mean, we don't even use realtors. Growing up. So when I started my journey into real estate, I realized there was not a lot of resources around me. And so I had to really grind it out. I had to figure it out. I had to struggle. I had to learn from here, pay here. Yeah. And I just man, it'd be a lot easier if somebody would hold my hand, but it wasn't there. I mean, there were people along the way who offered wisdom and input. But I said, you know what, as I continue to grow and learn, I will pass that on to other people. Now it's more formal. Now it's, hey, I will have a class once a month, or, every other month. But over the years, it would be through a phone call, through a conversation, whatever advice I could give to would help. But I think that's where that comes from, is just me recognizing how difficult it is to go at something alone and just wanting to be a helping hand in my industry.
Yeah. So what introduced you into this career that you started a long time ago? Was it somebody that was mentoring you? Did you just look and you're like, that's what I'm going to do, and then you went to go get it? How did that take place?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. We had just bought our first house. I was by about 22 years old. We had just a great real estate agent. So I was just intrigued by it. I was working full-time at Tarrant County College as a locksmith at the time. And again, I had second jobs, at various places, just trying to make things work. One day I said, hey, honey, why don't you consider getting into real estate? Our realtor was doing it. She was doing well. And she says, well, I really don't have the personality or the temperament to do that. She goes, why don't you do it? And I said, you know what? Why don't I do it? I said, why don't I do it? I signed up for classes very next month.
Okay, good. I don't know if you ever thought about it, but why did you try to pass it on to was it your wife?
Yes.
Okay, why did you try to pass it on to your wife as opposed to saying that might be for me? Like, she had to say, no, you do it. What made you do that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I wish I understood.
Yeah.
But I recognized when she told me, why don't I do it, that it more resonated with me than it did with her.
Yeah.
So I couldn't fully understand, if I gave it more thought, maybe I would, but I'm really glad that she said, well, why don't you do it? I think it would fit well with your personality. I said, okay, well, you know what? I think I will.
Yeah. So you got in and you went to school. What was that like? How long did it take? Now, the reason I'm asking is because, you were 6 years into your 2-year degree. How were you not worried that you were going to go in for a 1 month or 2 month course and it was going to take you a year? But how did you get past that?
So real estate courses, they're not as lengthy as college education. You can get your degree, but to get certified by the state of Texas, you just need to take a certain amount of hours. I got my hours done in 30 days.
Man.
So from beginning to end, it took me 30 days to complete all my classes, took my state exam, and then within another 30 days, I had my license. So from 60 days to do that. But the difference is I recognize that was an opportunity.
Got it.
That it worked with my personality, with my temperament, that I had the drive and the desire to do that. So the school and the class wasn't a challenge at all. It was not a challenge. It seemed right to me.
If you're listening right now and you're wondering, why am I struggling at something and there's no purpose or desire in that direction, that could be the reason why someone's going a little bit slow, because your motivation was, this is what I want to do. I see what people are making in this career. So your mind shifted or something, and you were just processing it faster. You finished quicker. And I think that's a great thing to kind of tell people is, find something that you're focused on, and it might actually change the way that you execute.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I love that you did that so fast.
Yeah, so I was one of those who bounced around from job to job.
Yeah.
That was me. It drove my wife crazy, my father-in-law crazy. But there was just, there's nothing wrong with working a job temporarily to make ends meet. But I knew none of those things I wanted to do. None of them. And I couldn't articulate it at 21, 22, 23 years old. So I would go from here to go. So I'm looking for something, but this is not it. I'm looking for, this is not either. This is not either. I know I need to make ends meet. And when I got into real estate, all the passion, the energy, the focus was there. And I had not really had that before. So I recognize that this is something that I really need to pursue.
Now, you said earlier that in the very beginning, 60 days you go and you finish and you I guess you get a job right away. And you said you had some challenges. You said you had to spend a little money here and there to kind of learn the industry. Tell me some of the challenges that you had coming out of Diamond Hill, where you didn't have friends that did the job that you were about to do. So seeking a mentor, seeking people who believed in you that you never knew in your life. What was that like, and how did you step into that?
Yeah, so none of it's easy. None of it's easy. Most of the challenges are internal. It's just, what you believe about yourself. A lot of when an individual encounters challenges, what's underneath will come to the surface. So if there's fear, if there's doubt, if there's discouragement, if there's financial insecurities, if there's a poverty mindset, if there's unbelief, that's all going to come to the surface. So a lot of things were just coming to the surface that I didn't even know what was there.
Yeah.
But fortunately, as I was pursuing this, I was also pursuing my personal growth. So I was able to recognize it. I was ready to identify it. I was already formulating faith and belief and the characteristics and the qualities that I wanted. I knew that what I set my mind to, I could do. So before, like, even though I didn't have a mentor, even though I didn't have really somebody who can walk me through, I already formulated faith and belief. And I knew that what I set my mind to and my heart to, that I could accomplish that. I knew it. I told my wife, and this would drive her crazy. I knew I was successful.
We'll fact check this too.
Oh, we will.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
I told my wife, I got in real estate about 25 years old. When I was about 23 or 24, I said, honey, I'm already successful. I just haven't walked it out yet. I'm already sick. My mindset, my attitude, it was all going that right direction.
Okay, so people struggle. This is a challenge, separating their work life with their personal growth. And somehow you instilled it in you that work is this. I'm learning. I'm going to do this but I'm investing in myself. And you said faith, self-development, your mental strength. Where did you find that? I think that's a great thing, dude, because we kind of put it, oh, I'm all in, man. I got to work, and everything that I develop has to do with work, and I got to wake up, and work's going to define and make who I am, because if I don't give it my all, then nothing's going to happen. And we neglect self.
Right.
And self is so important because we might stumble at the job,
right,
but you can still believe in yourself. So tell me how you came across that. When did you decide there's a line between what I do for a living and who I am as a person?
Yeah, that's a very challenging one, because people really tie their identity to what they do.
Yeah.
And it's,
and I don't blame them. I get it.
I get it. There's a lot of satisfaction in doing and working. I think as men, we're designed to just, do things and do it well. We like seeing accomplishment. But when I was younger, remember, I wasn't very good at very much, So, I mean, it was in terms of working and everything, people were always better than me. I'm like, man, why can't I get this, engineering job? It's not that I didn't try. I tried for engineering. I applied for management. I tried for training programs. Nobody would hire me on those things. So, so I realized really quick, if I'm going to do something, I'll have to create it on my own.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to create it on my own. And if I'm going to create it on my own, I've got to develop myself and develop skill sets that I do not yet possess. So luckily I got introduced at a very young age to, there's a few books and resources that I had read. I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I had got introduced to Jim Rohn. He's an old-time speaker. Jim Rohn has one of my favorite quotes. He says that if you work on your job, you'll make a living. If you work on yourself, you'll make a fortune. So at 21, 22 years old, when I'm working on, I grasped that. I grasped that. I was like, what does this mean, working on yourself? And I just kept listening. I kept reading. Reading was very difficult for me. People can go through 40, 50, 60 books a month, and I struggle to read, one book every other month, So, I mean, but I kept doing it because I knew that it was going to mold me into somebody that could experience a level of success.
I'm going to talk to you about how you dealt with the struggle of reading, okay, in a minute. But you mentioned something that happened often. I tried for this, I tried for that, and I didn't get it. Someone else got it, and the word rejection comes to me.
Yep.
How did you handle rejection, right? Because you continue to look for opportunities, but what would you tell someone that's coming to you and that is what's holding them down, holding them back? They've just faced a lot of rejection, and they're scared to continue. Like, they don't even want to look for the next opportunity because they're so messed up because there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah, how I handle that as a young adult, 18, 19, 20 years old in the workforce was way different than I handled it at 21, 22, 23, 24 as I began to develop.
Yeah.
Because when you're not developing, you will react. You won't respond. You'll react.
Yeah.
You'll personalize it. It must be me. I must be no good. I must be, it wasn't meant to be, all this kind of stuff. So I can see why an individual would want to give up. But as an individual begins to grow and elevate their mindset and elevate their thinking and develop their core, their beliefs, everything, when things like that happen, it doesn't faze them that much. Okay, you know what? So you just get back up and you just try again. Okay, this door is not open. Okay, let me just get back. It's a matter of time. So for me, you think about it in my industry, so I have to look at 15 to 20 houses before I buy one because that's how competitive it is.
Yeah.
So imagine if I said, well, this first person didn't accept my offer, may as well give up. Or the fifth. How about even the 10th?
Oh, man.
Does that make sense? But what I see now is just, you know what? That's a no. That's okay. That's just getting me one house closer to a yes.
Well, okay. So it's funny. We have a small comparison there because running the failed podcast, and then I've been in the podcast game for a while. Mm-hmm. I put a lot of invites out there.
Yep.
And I get rejected a lot. And not only do I get rejected, but I get rejected by like people that are close to me. And boy,
I'm so surprised.
But it hurts.
Yep.
And so I'm investing in what I'm doing.
Yep.
And slowly I'm starting to see, like I got connected to you through someone, and it was a lot easier.
Right.
And I found that adjustment, and I'm realizing that's the path I need to go. So rejection also helps you redirect and figure out how to do things better. What are some things that people can do better to come out of rejection on the 15th home to get to the 20th?
Do you have a specific scenario? Like, are you talking about job-wise, education-wise?
Just in life, like
general?
mentally, like your headspace, man. Like, okay, I made this pitch, 10 times it didn't work, but you trust it and you know it is. It's just the wrong person.
Yeah.
Do you change strategy, or do you say, no, I have a game plan. It's going to work. I just need to go on to the next one.
So I want to answer that two ways. Okay, so if you're talking about specifically in the moment, I don't think there's much you can do in an individual moment. I think if you took a deep breath, it may, lower your blood pressure. You may take a second, step outside. But to me, that's like 5%. How you handle that, how you're going to handle moments like that is defined by what you did for the last week, the last month, the last year, the last 2 years. So you can't encounter these situations and not put in any effort to grow and then expect to handle it like a successful individual. Does that make sense? So people will do that. They'll encounter something, have not put in the work to grow, and they react, and they want to do something in that individual moment to help them. And I'm not saying, again, step away, take a deep breath, breathe, but that's going to get you so far. You miss the moment to grow, to be able to handle that. So I'll answer it. That's the first way. The second way to answer that, what can an individual to do? One of the biggest things is one, grow, focus on personal growth. Yeah. 2, accept the reality that rejection is just a part of success. Yeah. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah. That's a reality. And there are a whole bunch of realities that we as individuals, as business owners, or people pursuing, their passions have to accept. And that's one of them, is rejection. I don't get every deal. I don't get every house. I do lose money sometimes on deals. Yeah. Some sellers do fall through. Some buyers do fall through. Some of my contractors make mistakes. Yeah. And I have to pay the bill for it. So I mean, if I had not had preparation, all of these things would be very overwhelming. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So in the specific moment, I've already kind of accepted, hey, there are things that are going to come my way. Got it. And I'm just going to have to accept the reality that this is what it is and make a conscious decision to keep moving forward.
Failure pops up for people that they're almost like, man, I just don't want to fail. I just don't want to fail. But you put things in place for small failures along the way. This guy overspent. This guy was late. You're already foreseeing them, and you're adjusting ahead of time because it's kind of repetitive. Like, here's another house, here's another flip, here's another thing. So you're paying attention to the process, and then you're eliminating some of the headaches ahead of time. And I think that's a valuable lesson for people that deal with failure. Like at some point, you got to say, on the next one, I'm going to adjust.
Yeah, you want to learn. You want to learn really quick. Yeah. So I would start off by redefining what failure is. I wouldn't personalize it. And I think that's where people get in trouble, is they personalize failure with their identity. I failed at this, so therefore I must be a failure. I have to quit. So I if you can separate the two, hey, I'm still a man, I'm still a husband, I'm still a father, I still have character, I still have integrity. Yeah. And you know what? I failed at this. Or somebody said no. And separate the two to a degree, I think people will go a lot further.
That's good. I like that. You said that you struggled reading. Was that all the way like from like elementary, like throughout to college and stuff, or when did you realize that you were getting more comfortable with it?
I struggle. I struggled with reading. Not that's something I couldn't. Nothing was interesting to
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
So nothing would catch my attention. But even when I found books that I did enjoy, it still took me time to read them.
Yeah.
I'm just not as strong of a reader, but they were way easier than anything I've ever read in college, in high school, or anything else.
Because okay, here we are talking, and you're just smooth, man. Like you talk very eloquent. You choose good words to describe what you're saying. Where did that come from? Did the weakness in reading, did it develop other areas? And did you notice that it was developing you, like as far as being like in salesmanship, in communication, or how did that happen? Because the reason I mention it is because for me, struggling with like reading and writing, I had to strengthen other areas, and boom, it's like communication.
Right.
It's personable skills. That's what I developed, but it happened naturally. Now I can put it together.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering how you ended up there, just because I can hear that you're a good communicator.
Yeah. So I would probably say, I don't know if I was at the time able to, piece that together the way you just did. But I would imagine that the combination of my readings, everything that I was taking in, it was increasing my intelligence, increasing my vocabulary, increasing, my understanding.
Yeah.
I was growing in wisdom and growing in knowledge and everything. So
Yeah.
a lot of those things I would say contributed to that. Though at the time I probably wouldn't have been able to put that together. So I do. I think that when we take things in, we'll eventually, we'll regurgitate it.
Yeah.
It just becomes a part of us.
Got it. In your career, you're training people, and a lot of people find success and they, for some reason, they just want to keep it to themselves. It's my secret.
Yep.
It's I can't let nobody know because there's not enough to go around. And that's a strong thing in this,
Right.
in this world. Where did you decide, or when did you decide that you wanted to give back, that you weren't worried about developing and making those that would, in essence, be your competitors? I know they're more like partners and
Right.
strategic partnerships, but where did you get that from? Because that's a challenge that a lot of people face, and it makes their world real smart.
Yeah.
I mean, real small, real smart. It makes their world
I
real
think
smart.
it goes back to what's inside the individual.
Yeah.
Because there's all kind of things, and there's good qualities, and there's qualities that are not so great. There's healthy ones and there are unhealthy ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have fear, doubt, unbelief. You can have courage. You can have resilience. You could have greed inside.
Yeah.
You could have generosity inside. So I think there was a natural part of me that just desired to be generous. And then as I saw what it takes to be successful, that kind of kicked in, and I wanted to share that information. On top of that, on top of kind of what's already been in there and what I've experienced, that I recognize that it kind of goes from what my job is or what I do for a living or my business. Now I'm just not pursuing that. I'm pursuing purpose. Does that make sense? And purpose is far beyond what I do it's far beyond flipping a house, making it ugly, make it beautiful. Now it goes, okay, how can I give back? How can I become a better individual today than I was last week, last month, last year? And not everybody desires that. Some people just want to make a living, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's perfectly okay. But other individuals are pursuing who they were called to be. And so it feels like for me, it's just one piece of the puzzle of something that's larger. So as I would give back, as I would teach, or it's just me putting pieces of puzzle together of something larger that will unfold over a lifetime.
Do you have any kids?
I do. I have two.
2 kids. How old mine's 9.
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Okay, let me ask you this. As a father, as a mentor to a lot of people, what are some qualities, right? Like if on both sides of it, on personal and on business, that you want to pass down to them, that you feel like are core things that help, that you found out a long time ago and they still help you day in and day out?
So you're saying business and personal?
Yeah. And I just want to see if they blend or how you separate them, because earlier when we talked about dividing that line between work and self, and I just want to see where you're at.
Okay, now are you talking about how would I pass down to my children? Is that
Yeah,
what
like
you were
how would
saying?
you teach them? Like how?
Yeah, so I'm in the midst of that right now
Yeah.
because they're at 15 and 12 years old, so they're very, they're formidable years. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think I'll just tell you what I teach my kids. I teach my kids about honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I teach my kids about integrity, which is applicable in personal and business.
Yeah.
I teach them about resilience, not giving up, about working hard. I teach them about the importance of getting out of their comfort zone. I said, if one of my kids is more introverted, hey, honey, I know naturally you just want to be more to yourself. I would encourage you to work on reaching out and being the initiator, so you can work on that area of life. So personal growth is a big one. Reading is a big one. Investing is a big one. Staying out of debt as much as they could.
Yeah. We all try.
We all try. I mean, no one's perfect, but I mean, I'm just trying to start. I mean, what a world our kids are going to be growing up in today.
It's a different world. It's tough. It's a lot of information out there. So it's good to know that when we have failures and challenges as older people, and if we have kids, families, that we not only go through it, but I think what makes an individual grow more than anything is whenever they're able to teach what they went through. And that's how I think people improve. Talk to me a little bit about the way that you teach and what you gain from teaching. Obviously, I know it's business. You're teaching how to buy and sell and all that. I get that part. But what are some of the benefits that you see from teaching?
On their end or my end?
Both, like in your courses that you give for people that are trying to.
So for them, success is really 80-20. It's 80% internal, in my view, and 20% skills. So my classes are designed really around the 20%. Let me just teach you the practical skill sets on. But what I love about it is an opportunity for me to work on the 80. Does that make sense? So even though I teach skill sets.
It's okay.
Even though I teach skill sets, I'll incorporate belief. I'll incorporate having a healthy thought life. I'll incorporate my values into the lesson, even though I'm teaching on the technical aspects of buying a house, remodeling it, reselling it, or renting it, or whatever that may be. So I really do try to stick to that 20, but I love the opportunity to incorporate some of the other values that I possess. So that's what it is for them. On my end, I do see my role, even though I'm teaching them. These are free classes that I hold. They're free to them. They cost me because I put it on. We buy breakfast. We give away gift cards, all this kind of stuff. So it's a cost to me. But I see myself in the position as a mentor. And a mentor's job is to add value. So when I'm teaching them, I love adding value to these individuals. I love seeing people seeing possibilities. And what it does, when you have somebody like myself or any teacher or anybody willing to share, it bridges the gap between where they are and where they want to be. It may not bridge it completely, but it goes one layer down, or it just inches up closer. So now success is not that far off for them. It's a little bit closer. It's not completely there, but I'm saying it's just me doing my part. And all it cost me was time and information. And my classes are about an hour, 15 minutes, so not even much time.
How often are you giving classes, and is it like just in the Fort Worth area, or are you moving around the Metroplex?
No, it's typically it's just in Fort Worth. As of now, we were doing it once a month, but I do take off June and July because we do some traveling. So we won't have anything in June or July. I've also been a guest teacher at some of these other venues as well. So but typically it's just in Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
Once a month.
So here now you're well into your business. You understand the ins and out of your industry. What are some of the, there's obviously a lot of little challenges that you already anticipate, but in the past year or two, what's one of the biggest challenges that you had that you had to grow a little bit, that you maybe had to learn something new? it taught you something new about yourself, and now you're on the better side of it.
Yeah. So I think the most recent thing that sticks out with me was probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was working on projects, and I kind of have my threshold.
Yeah.
Like I like working on 3 or 4 projects at a time.
Got it.
So that's just my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I would come across another deal, and I would say, you know what, I don't know if I can do this. I like doing 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah.
Another deal would come, you know what, I don't think I'll do this one. I don't want to do, I can only handle 3 or 4. I caught myself one time. I was like, why am I limiting myself to 3 or 4? What am I telling myself?
Yeah.
So I caught it, and I said, you know what, I'm capable of 10 at a time.
Wow.
And it wasn't but 6 months later, 3 months later, 4 months later that I was counting all the projects that I had between remodels and, renovations and rentals. I had 11 projects going.
Wow.
Yeah. When 6 months or 5 months prior, I was capping myself off at 3 to 4. So I hope that answers your question, but that's one that's one that really sticks out.
I think we do get comfortable and work around that comfort, and we say, well, I do really well here, and I know the results, and I kind of got a hold of it, and you don't realize how long you can get stuck there, even though it's not negative, but sometimes in a positive way we can get stuck somewhere. And I think that's interesting that you said, you know what, I can handle a little bit more. And sometimes that's what it takes for us to move on to the next growth, right? To the next, to go up another level after a failure. Is that, okay, you came back, you bounced back, but now you got to decide that you're willing and ready to take on a little bit more because it's time to grow.
Yep.
And that's hard. Coming from failure. I'm telling you, that is hard. And now, but you're choosing, because we think we will do better and grow whenever there's failure, but not whenever there's success. And those 3 to 4 projects you had, that's a sign of success. And you still said, you know what? I still have room to grow. And I like that. I think we should always look for an opportunity to grow. It doesn't have to come from a negative place. It can come from a positive place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that I've realized is a lot of barriers or setbacks or failures, whatever you want to call it, challenges, we get in our own way. They're brought upon. There are some exterior things that do happen, but a lot of our what blocks us is internal. Yeah. Does that make sense? We can sabotage our success.
I can't.
I can have people that I'm mentoring. We're looking at the same house, the same deal.
Yeah.
I know it's a great deal. They know it's a great deal, and they cannot pull the trigger. Right? That has nothing to do with the house. That has nothing to do with the resources. It has everything to do with what they are talking themselves out of purchasing that house.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? So a lot of our setbacks and failures, if we're honest with ourselves, we bring them on ourselves. We invite them.
Yeah.
And so that's not always easy to hear, but if you kind of look back, and I can see it in myself, just like that situation I just gave. I was my own barrier.
Yeah,
there wasn't anybody on the outside. I was my own barrier.
Interesting. I like it. I think that's a great perspective, and that's what I feel about having these different guests, because we can kind of look at a period in life that a lot of us go through, but just we change the perspective just a little bit and go down someone else's path or point of view, and it shines light in a new way. And we're all just trying to grow and get better. And so I like that. I want to thank you for sharing that with us. Talk to me about leave something positive, right, for the community whenever you think about failure and challenges, either ones that are your fault and then the ones that aren't your fault. Like you were speaking about that a while ago. So how do you handle those things, and what would you tell someone so that they can be encouraged?
Yeah, so you're talking about an individual, if they're in a season right now where they feel like they're experiencing failure. Well, I look back at some of the things that I've experienced, and really what's helped me the most is really just accepting that setbacks, challenges, failures are a reality of life. Yeah. Forget business. Just look at personal. If you don't pursue business, you're going to experience challenges and setbacks.
True.
You'll experience it within yourself, within family, within relationships. So I do believe that accepting that is just a part of life will take you a long way. It just alleviates this burden for perfection.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And nobody can live up to that.
No, no, no.
Okay. Two, there are people, there are resources that will help you out. Does that make sense? So whatever
Man.
your problem is that
Yeah.
you're encountering, let's say that, hey, you're not great at sales. There are sales books, there are courses, there are mentors. You know, you may have to pay for it, or you may have to pay for a book, but there's a world of resources available for all of us to succeed, for every single one of us, regardless of industry,
Yeah.
regardless of profession. You know, so I would want to leave those two things.
What's a book or a quote? Because you said you mentioned a few, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
A few resources that you read, something that sticks out that you just kind of repeat in your classes and that you really believe in, that you heard. Because right now you were explaining, like, go outside of yourself and obtain a resource that can help you.
Right.
What's one that that you share, and it's like a quote or something that you know?
Books. I think books are priceless.
Yeah.
I'm reading one right now by John Maxwell, The 15 Laws of Growth.
Yes.
So that's a great book. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Got it.
Richard, I mean, I can just kind of
No, that's good.
There's
Sometimes we know them, but we just need to hear them again.
Yes.
So.
Well, so leadership is really big for me because leadership has to deal with people and influence. And if you're going to be successful, you are going to have to deal with people. You know, there's really no way around it outside of inheriting, you know, multi-millions of dollars and if you're going to earn your way to any level of success, you're going to have to learn how to deal with people, deal with contractors, deal with students, deal with adults, deal with children, deal with temperaments and personalities. And leadership I have found has helped me to deal with the diversity of people that I've encountered in the most valuable way.
I tell this to my wife all the time. I said, you know what, for people to be successful and to grow, you know, people have these big dreams. It's like, you know, your family and friends aren't enough. It's the strangers that are out there in the world that have to believe in you, and you don't know who they are. But that's how you build the real success. And and I agree that it takes a great leader. And so how we'll take a little rabbit trail, because you said leadership, and I saw the look in your eyes, like you're passionate about leadership, and so am I. I love it. How do you define, and I know it's a broad question, but what makes a good leader? What do you do for yourself? Like, how do you carry yourself to be a good leader?
So, you know, John Maxwell, leadership is simply just influence. But leadership is bringing out more in another individual.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Adding value to them and bringing out more than what they would be able to do on their own.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that's hard, man. I'm telling you, man, that's an encouragement for people listening, is how many people have you brought a better version out of them? Like, if you don't do that, dude, that's so important. I think it's so fulfilling to live like that. Even if it's one or two, you may not be a big leader and have thousands of people, but I think it's important to build others up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you think about this, and anybody can be a leader, it's not just for leaders of organizations or businesses or companies. I mean, you can have exercise leadership in your sphere, your network, your people you're around, friends, family. So I love what leadership can do, because when you think about it, I know not everybody can see me, but what may be a challenge for you, I have my hand over my head right now, like, hey, this is a ceiling for me. I don't know how I'm going to get past this.
Yeah.
When you have a leader, they're viewing from a vantage point to where what you're dealing with is, they can address that with simplicity, with wisdom, with knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what's overwhelming to one person, when an individual steps in the role of leadership, they can step in and say, listen, I know it's up here to you from my vantage point. You know, here's some piece of information, here's some perspective that'll help you remove that lid.
Got it.
Does that make sense? And it happens little at a time.
And so people might be listening, and you might have a higher ceiling in a certain area.
Right, exactly.
And you won't know until you go help somebody because of what you've been through. And when I look at failure, that's what my favorite thing is like, as long as you don't quit and as long as you're not defeated, you show back up, and then you elevate yourself back up. But in doing that, you're able to help others. And that's what we're trying to do here. So let's wrap this up. let's get some final thoughts from you, okay? You can speak to a business perspective or a personal perspective, just in general when it comes to failure, how to face it, how to overcome it, and how to grow from it.
Okay, so to wrap this up, how to deal with failure, how to deal with obstacles, how to deal with challenges. Tough question.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's not a tough question. It's just one that takes intense thought.
Yeah, we got to have another episode to answer that.
Yeah, no. And there's a part of me that wants to say you tackle it head on.
Oh, okay.
I mean, life is tough. Business is tough.
I like that you're
Personal
hesitating.
life is tough. But you get out there and you give it everything that you got. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to your business. You owe it to your future self, to your calling, to your destiny, to give everything that you got. Does that make sense? And I'm not just talking about, raw strength or anything like that. I'm just talking, I'm going to learn everything that I need to learn. I'm going to develop the skill sets that I need to develop. I'm going to walk in this level of character and integrity. I'm going to develop faith. I'm going to develop perseverance. I'm going to develop all these characteristics and qualities to not be overcome by failure. So, and that's my approach to life. I know I'm sit here and I may be calm or maybe reserved, but when it comes to, I don't identify with failure. I do everything that I can do to overcome.
I love it.
Does that make sense? It's just not a part of my DNA. Yeah. Does that make sense? I don't allow it to be.
I kind of want to change the name of the podcast. No, I'm joking.
No, you're good.
I'm not identifying with it, but I get what you're saying.
Yes. It's just, we have so many things against us already. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh,
we have so many things. I don't need
it.
Another voice telling me that I'm a failure. Does that make sense? I'm so much more than that. I'm capable. There's so many things that an individual can say about themselves rather than I'm a failure. Yeah. So from that aspect, that's what I'm saying.
Don't say that you're a failure. Don't accept it. You're going through it. Grow, become better. I love it, man. Thank you, Richard, for sharing just a little bit about your life and how you process things and how you've grown. And there's a lot of really good patterns and personality traits that you shared throughout your journey. And I really appreciate you for being open with us and sharing. And I hope that you, the listener, are learning a little bit something. And if you have any questions, just find me on Instagram and DM us. Let me know if you learned something, and specifically if there was something that you learned. Let us know. I'm just curious. And so thank you so much, man, for joining us today.
Thank you again.
We hit the hour mark.
There we go.
This was planned, man. And so thank you so much for everyone that's tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. All the links for Richard and what he does will be on the description below. Everything for the Failed Podcast will be down below. Don't forget, comment, share, and hit the bell. I don't know. Someone told me say hit the bell. Go bing, like on YouTube. It's it's an important thing. You can watch us. You can listen. But just remember, like I always say, maybe this episode was a failure. Maybe I'll fail tomorrow, but I don't care. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm passionate about teaching people about overcoming failure and challenges. We'll see y'all on the next one.
Thank you.